Hi guys, it's Lori, Happy Picker, and I'm back with another video today where I'm gonna show you what we sold over the weekend. Not a ton of stuff, I don't know, a little less than last weekend, but we're also gonna talk about how long should you expect something to be listed before it sells? What's a good sell-through rate? How much time should you expect it to take? All those kinds of things. We're going to talk about that, so stick around. Okay, first thing is actually a phone that I found at the Goodwill outlet. Found this at the Goodwill outlet, yes, in the bins. And that's just a screen cover right there. It powers on. It's just like it's a cheap little, I don't know, is it pay as you go? I don't even know, but it sold for $19.99. Not huge money, but it sold really fast. It sold within 2 days of me listing it. And if I got it at the outlet, how much did that actually cost me? Not much. Over here we have some pottery that sold. This is a piece of McCoy pottery. You'll have to excuse my voice. I've got a bit of a cold, so it sounds kind of scratchy. Anyway, McCoy pottery. And we got this in a estate sale buyout. We calculate we have about $1.85 in it. It sold for $24.99. And it also sold quickly in less than 3 weeks. So less than 30 days. Okay, this is one of those things that I'm not really sure why I bought it. Is it me? Am I looking cute? I just thought this was a fun item. Found this at Goodwill, the thrift store, not the outlet, last week. And I paid $3 for it. I think it was $2.95. I had run comps on it, but I ran them really quickly. I saw $20 solds, but I failed to realize that those were with free shipping. So I did sell this very quickly, but I only sold it for $12.50 plus shipping. But I spent $3 on it. So there's not a ton of profit here, but it did sell quickly. Happy about that. Okay, these bags right here, that's what I've got next. So these are like travel kits from airlines, mostly Delta Airlines, and inside of them are things like eye masks and lotion, toothbrush, socks, various amenities like that. And I found these at the Goodwill outlet. So I think I have around $3 invested in them. They sold for $22. They are not all 100% complete. Some of them are missing some things, or I probably could have gotten some more money for them. But they sold also very quickly. They sold in 2 days. So did I leave money on the table? I don't know, but Goodwill outlet buy that sold fast for $22, I'm happy with. Next up I have these 3 votives. I'm not gonna try to hold them all in one hand. So I just discovered last year how well these peg votives can sell, because we found a huge box of them at like a church sale for $4, and we sold the heck out of them, and we sold them quickly. And so now I'm on the lookout for these all the time. Now the clear ones don't generally sell as well or as fast, but I only paid 25 cents for these and just listed them last week. And so when I got an offer on them of $11.80, I went ahead and just took the offer. I think I had them listed for 15, but I'll take that quick sale. And I've got more of these listed, and I sold some red ones last week for real good money too. All right, back here behind this is another one of those things that I probably shouldn't have wasted my time on. This was from the Goodwill outlet. Super lightweight, like hardly any money in it. Really easy to list when it has the barcode. So I only got $5.75 for this, but sometimes I do make exceptions when the sell-through rate is pretty good and it's easy to list and easy to ship. So only $5.75, but came from the bins, so I got nothing in it. And it took just over 30 days to sell. So pretty quick. Okay, I have more Coke stuff. I've been selling Coke stuff every week lately. So I got this whole tub and I have more over here. These were 2 separate bundles that the person bought and I'm gonna have to ship together. So that's gonna be fun. So we've already made tons of money on the Coke stuff that we've been selling. If you didn't see my previous videos, we bought out a collection last year, sold off the good things individually to begin with, made all our money back and then some. And then we've just been lotting up the rest of it into groups of like 10 items and selling them for $15 to $20 each. And they're moving. We've been selling Coke stuff every week. So these 2 lots of Coca-Cola items sold for $38.49. And it's just all profit. So, Coke stuff, collectible stuff, if you lot it up, can be a good way to get rid of stuff that isn't worth anything individually. Also, I had just listed those this week also. So those sold really fast. So I think we're almost out of Coke stuff. Not quite, but we're getting there. We're getting close. All right. That was all my eBay stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and stop there and take a break and talk about our topic of the day and how long you should expect it to take to sell things. So I did a little research, and I've heard it from other resellers too. Having around a 50% sell-through rate, which means that you're selling half of the items that you list, is a very reasonable expectation. Now, I asked AI, just out of curiosity, to see what it would say, and it said that a reasonable expectation is to sell 30 to 60% of the items you list. So I checked, and we are falling into that 50% sell-through rate. Personally, for us, over this last year, we're selling at least half the things that we list. How fast are we selling them? I took a look at that too. And over the last year as well, 70% of our items that have sold within 90 days of being listed. So that means only 30% of the items that we sell are out there for more than 90 days. So what's a reasonable expectation? Is that reasonable? How do I compare to others? I'm not sure how I compare to others. I'd love to hear what your numbers look like and how fast you guys are selling things. But I have some thoughts about how we can help things to sell faster, or what makes them sell faster, why some things don't sell faster. So I thought we'd just run through those. Number 1, are your things that you're listing in demand? And that, again, will come back to what kind of sell-through rate do the individual things you're listing have? Are you checking those before you buy them? And to check the sell-through rate, for those of you that don't know, and I'm using eBay as my standard for checking sell-through rates. It's easier to find that sell-through rate on eBay than it is other platforms. So eBay shows you a 90-day total. If you do a search, it'll show you what's been listed currently. And if you filter to solds, it'll show you what is sold in the last 90 days. So to calculate that sell-through rate, you look at how many are listed versus how many have sold in the last 90 days. So if there are 100 listed currently, and you look at solds, and there's been 100 of that item that have sold in the last 90 days, that's 100% sell-through rate, 1-to-1. If you have 100 items listed and 200 sold, that's fantastic. That's a 200% sell-through rate. If it's half of that, if you have 100 items listed and only 50 items sold in the last 90 days, that's a 50% sell-through rate. So that shows you how much demand there is for the item you're listing. So the lower that number gets, the harder it's going to be for you to sell. definitely you should be looking at sold comps, especially if it's not something you're familiar with or already know. But looking at just what's listed and how much it's listed for, anybody can list anything they want for however much they want. That doesn't tell us a whole lot. We need to see how those items are selling and how much they're selling for. So how well things sell will also depend on a few key factors like price, condition, and the presentation of your item. So let's talk about each of those. Price them for what they're going to sell for, what eBay is showing they're going to sell for. I use eBay to run my comps. They may sell for a little more on other platforms, but eBay's a good baseline. So price your items for what the history shows they're selling for. And don't let what you paid for an item influence how much you list an item for, because that's irrelevant. What you paid doesn't matter. In fact, you'll hear a lot of people say you make your money on the buy, because it's only going to sell within a certain range of price. So if you're going to make more money, then you have to buy low. Buy low, sell high, right? But you have to price it appropriately for the market. That's the number one thing that's going to help it to sell. Condition also matters. The same item in better condition as yours is going to sell for a little more. Or if it's priced the same, it's going to sell faster because it's in better condition. So condition matters to what you're selling and how fast it's selling. If you price it appropriate for its condition, it still should sell. I sell things that are repaired, have damage, missing parts. I do sell those kinds of things. It does just typically take a little bit longer to sell them, or I have to sell for lower in order to sell it quicker. So just expect condition to be a factor in how long things are out there for. What season you're selling it in. Now they say Christmas sells all year round, and it does. I do sell Christmas all year round, but it does sell better at Christmas time. Same goes with Easter and Valentine's and whatever holiday it is. You can sell it all year round, but it's going to sell faster when people are in that season buying that item. So I'm not saying don't list it. I'm just saying if it's out there for more than 90 days, that may have something to do with it. So just allow for that. Another factor is going to be your listing quality. What does that mean? Well, I think it comes down to a couple different things. Listing photos being one. Photos are important. I had a wedding dress for sale for a long time. It was a 1920s wedding dress. It was really cool. But I just listed it hanging on a hanger, and I kept dropping the price. I think I had it down to $50. It was a cool dress. I think I had it down to $50. I'm like, I don't want to sell this for less than $50. What can I do? I can take better photos of it is what I could do. And the only way I could figure out how to do that was to buy a mannequin. So we invested a little bit of money by buying a mannequin, but then we sold that dress for $200 after I had a good presentation of it. So presentation does matter, not only in how fast it'll sell, but also in how much you might be able to get. So given the same condition, a better listing presentation is going to get you more money, and it's going to sell it for faster, in my experience. And then also your title of your item. You need to make sure you're taking a good look at those titles. Make sure you are using good keywords in your title so people can find it. Make sure you're including the brand, the size, the color, the model number, what kind of style it is. Those things people will be looking for. If you can get as many of those relevant keywords into your title, that's going to help buyers find your item. So make sure you're using good keywords. Another factor, though, to how fast an item's going to sell may be based upon the algorithm of the platform you're on and how active you are on the platform. They say platform algorithms favor people who are consistently using the platform. So that means it may be better for you to list just a few items a day versus 20 items one day and nothing for the next 3 days, because consistency across the board. They're going to see you're being more active, more evenly. I don't know. This is a debated topic, but I don't think it's debated that the algorithm does reward consistency. How that works exactly, I mean, I'm not sure, but if you're not as active of a seller, it may take longer for your things to sell. That doesn't mean they won't sell. It just may take longer. So the algorithm favors being consistent, and keep that in mind. The algorithm also tends to favor newer listings. So I think that when you list something, it's going to come up in a search above somebody else's listing that's been out there for a longer period of time. Unless you're promoting or something like that, that may factor in. But as far as without taking that into consideration, newer listings are going to tend to show up higher in search results. So what can you do about that? Well, you can delete and you can relist your items. So personally, since I'm having 70% of my sales take place within 90 days, I don't feel like I need to delist and relist within that first 90 days. I might send some offers on something that has a lot of interest, but I'm not going to delist it and relist it until it's been at least 90 days. That's a personal choice, but that's because of what I'm seeing as our results. So after those 90 days are up, then I may delist it and I will relist it so it comes up as a new item. And when I do that, I may change my price and lower it a little bit. I may change my title and tweak it a little bit, because it was out there for 90 days as it is and didn't sell. So I feel like I need to do something besides just bump it up as a new item again. I feel like I need to do something to give it a little more demand. What can I do to make it better? Do I need to retake some of the pictures? Do I have poor pictures? Maybe. I don't do that much. Sometimes I do, not very often. But I also want you to remember that having long tail items that are listed for more than 90 days, is normal. In fact, based upon the numbers I shared earlier, that people have an average of a 30 to 60% sell-through rate, that means that 40 to 70% of the items are not selling within 90 days. So you're not abnormal if your things aren't selling that fast. There's just things that we can do to try to help our things sell quicker. And I'm hoping that I'm helping you to see some of those things that you can do to promote those quicker sales. So basically, I think it comes down to 3 basic things, really. Finding the right buyer at the right price at the right time. Given those 3 things, things will sell. Things will eventually sell, almost across the board in my experience. In fact, I just had a thing sell last week. That shag rug owl, do you remember? Did you see that last week? It took me 2.5 years to sell that item. It just took me lowering the price enough to find the right buyer at the right time. And I did. Now, I didn't profit a lot on it. And that is something else also to remember. Most of my profit comes on those things that I'm selling within 90 days. The things that have been listed for longer, I'm tending to take lower offers on, or I'm lowering my price, or I'm putting them on sale. And so those things are not making me as much money. So focus on those good listings, focus on buying good stuff, focus on good presentation and good titles, and sell them within 90 days to maximize your profit. If you have questions, ask. These aren't hard, fast rules for everybody. These are just some of the things that I have experienced or seen in our reselling business. Hope that's of some use to you. All right, the next thing I sold are these candle holders and this sconce with these amber globes. Let me show you better. Okay, these candle holders and the sconce that came with matching glass votives sold on Mercari as a bundle with this random transfer pattern that was a long tail item that had been out there forever. I had this listed for $6. I had the candle holders listed for $40, the sconce listed separately for $40. So total list price was $86. And I took an offer of $72.57. Why the odd number, I don't know, but I only paid a quarter for the pattern. I paid $3.50 for these and the sconce, so that's $3.75 I just turned into 72 and change. So I'm happy with that. And this pattern was a long tail item, but these candle holders and sconce were out there for less than 90 days. Next up, we have a telephone. All right, rotary dial telephone. This got some discoloration, you can see, from age. Paid $5 for this at a garage sale. Listed it, took less than 2 weeks to sell for $30. And I did test this. They have things you can buy online to test landline telephones. So I actually had bought 3 telephones when I bought this. The other 2 did not work, unfortunately. And I paid $5 each for those as well. Well, I sold those a couple weeks ago, or within the last week or so. I sold those for $30 for both, since they didn't work. So when they do work, it definitely gets you a little bit more money. And testing them is good, because if you don't test it, then you have to list it as untested, and people are taking a chance on it, not knowing whether it works or not. So it was, I think the item, I can't remember the brand name of the item I used to test the phone, but you can Google it and find it. I think I spent $15 to $20 on it. But I've had so many phones over the last few years that it's paid for itself. I mean, it's worth it, because like I said, I would have had to have sold this as untested if I didn't test it, and I would have gotten a lot less. So it's worth that little bit of investment. Next up, we have a ThighMaster. Where's it at? Where's it say? There. ThighMaster Gold. Grumpy Picker found this at a thrift store just a couple weeks ago, and he did pay $6.44 for it with tax, but it has a 200% sell-through. So remember I said the higher the sell-through rate is, the faster it's going to sell, and you can spend a little bit more money if you know it's going to sell fast. And it sold for $24 in just less than 2 weeks. So $6.40 into $24 plus shipping on eBay. Oh, this was not eBay. This was on Facebook Marketplace that it sold. And their fees are very reasonable. I'll make a little bit of money on the shipping because I charge, well, hopefully I'll make a little bit of money on the shipping. We'll see. I should. Anyway, $6.40 into $24 in 2 weeks. 200% sell through. Probably a bolo. Okay, next up. I have some buttons. There they are. So 4 months ago, I bought a whole flat lid, box lid, full of vintage buttons at an auction, and I paid up. I paid $50. But I've had some experience with buttons, not recently, but many years ago. I had also bought a bunch of old buttons, and I know that they can sell well if they're certain kinds or certain styles. So I kind of took a chance that I'm going to make a bunch of money on these, but then I haven't done anything with them. They've just been sitting, and it takes a lot of sorting and organizing and figuring out how to lot them up. And or am I selling only like ones together like I did these? So this is a lot of 5 buttons that are exactly the same, metal shanks with a nice floral design on them. And I sold them for $9.50 on Etsy. So $9.50 is not bad for 5 buttons. I have a lot more buttons left, so hopefully I'm going to do okay. It's just that it's going to take me a while to get it all listed and photographed. Took about 2 weeks for these to sell. I listed about 8 to 10 lots of buttons that day, but I have a lot more that I need to list, so I need to get to it. All right, here's something else. This stack right here, vintage gauges. So Grumpy Picker found a whole box full of vintage gauges at a flea market, and he paid $1 each for them. Now, we're not going to test them. We don't know anything about them. We're selling them as is for display, parts, whatever. But $1 each, that means we paid $3 for these. We're lotting them all up into different groups. And these sold for $29.99 on Etsy. They only pay $5 for shipping. These will probably cost more like $10 to ship. So I'm getting probably about $25 before fees for our $3. Not bad. It did only take about 2 weeks for these to sell as well. So quick sale. Okay, up here is the last item of the day. This is a Frankoma trivet, and we got this in a estate sale buyout. Have $1.85 in it. Sold it for $20, and it took less than 3 weeks to sell. So another fast flip. All right, that's it. I have 16 different lots that sold this weekend that I'm shipping out. And of those 16 lots, only 2 were listed for more than 90 days. So that's a pretty good percentage of my sales that sold in less than 90 days. And in fact, 12 of them sold in less than 30 days. So that makes me happy. And that's a reason to keep listing, because things sell when you're listing. And if they're just sitting here and I'm not listing, I'm not selling as much as I could be. Keep listing. Keep showing up. Keep checking those prices, doing all the things to get your stuff to sell. Cut yourself some slack if it's not selling as fast as you'd like. And just see what you can do to improve your listings and get those items moved. We did do a purge this last week of some things that have been around for too long. I don't do it a lot because, like I said, give it enough time, it usually will sell, but sometimes it just needs to go. I'm tired of seeing it. And I also did put my store on sale on eBay. I'm running a 40% off sale of anything that's over 200 days old. Maybe I should have just done that on anything over 90 days old, probably. But anyway, just keep playing with the algorithm, keep mixing things up, keep seeing what works for you. Thanks for being here today. Really appreciate you coming along and hanging out with me. I hope that you find something useful from what I'm sharing that makes you a better reseller. And until next time, friends, happy picking.